violence.
Hello, Bonadar. Welcome to a brand new series of Crimewatch Live, coming to you from our studio in the centre of Cardiff.
Today we have an urgent appeal from police forces around the UK who are looking for a number of people involved in those awful riots. You may remember them last summer. Can you help detectives identify any of these men?
Welcome back to Crimewatch Live.
He's been jamming the switchboard both here and at the incident room on that case of Welling Garden.
To remind you, this was the abduction and radio drop campaign and the handgun debate. Hello and welcome to Crimewatch. 12 people rang in giving the same those fantastic results.
Welcome to a brand new series of Crimewatch Live, where we're continuing to mark our 40th year on the BBC. Over these last 4 decades, we've featured more than 7,000 appeals, and thanks to your calls, police have been able to solve hundreds of crimes.
And we'll be bringing you more of that over these next 3 weeks, asking for help finding suspects, solving appeals, bringing you more incredible stories from the front line of policing.
Today, a devastated daughter needs your help after a brutal attack killed her mother just 200 metres from her front door.
I was 7 years old when I lost my mum. She deserves justice. And so do I.
And how the flying squad caught a team of international burglars intent on stealing more than £1 million worth of cash and jewellery.
We didn't know where they were living. We didn't know their true identities. Everything they did was off radar. It was one of the most challenging surveillance deployments we've done.
We'll be joined by Sarah Staff, former Detective Chief Inspector of the Met's Flying Squad, to hear about Safer Gems, a major initiative designed to tackle these organised crime groups from stealing jewellery and watches. And as always, our team are backstage ready to take your calls. You can find our contact details by using the QR code. You just need to scan the code with your phone's camera and it'll direct you to our homepage where you can find all of our contact details. Otherwise, the number to call is 08000 468 999. You can also text us on 63399. Just start with the word crime, leave a space, and then write your message. Or finally, you can email us at cwl@bbc.co.uk.
But first this morning, we all watched in horror last summer as riots broke out in Southport and then spread to cities and towns across the UK. I'm joined now by DCI Zoe Hardy, who's heading up Operation Navette, which is investigating the large-scale disorder. She's joined by DCI Graham Barr from Northumbria Police, an area of the country which also saw large-scale disorder. Thank you both for coming in this morning. Zoe, if I can start with you, just remind us of the scale of what did happen.
Good morning. Yes, following the tragic events on the 29th of July last year, in Southport, we saw large, wide-scale disorder across the UK, especially in Southport and Liverpool, as is shown here.
Yeah, we can see some of the scenes here. These are real scenes of this disorder in Southport. It's horrific what we can see, directed, in this case, towards the police officers and their vehicles there. And it's so much damage. We can see, just seeing there from the sites there, we can see so much damage is caused. It's dangerous, and a number of crimes were committed, weren't they?
Yes, there were. The wide-scale disorder included large-scale criminal damage, theft, arson, that also didn't have just an effect on the communities, but also on private residents and business locations as well.
We've got some more footage here from another area. This time it's Liverpool, and again, Zoe, we can see this incredible level of violence that's used, again, in this case, towards officers. It's just so dangerous, isn't it, what we can see here? And as you just mentioned there, a number of different offences caused. Absolutely horrific and unacceptable seeing those scenes. But there is news, because there is a new database. You're launching it today. You want people to get in touch with their information. Tell us about this.
Yes, we are. We've built a brand new platform for this purpose, and if we encourage your viewers and the public to look for all of the images that are on the database in the hope that they recognise somebody, come forward and allow us to continue with our inquiries.
So far, you've done really, really well. Over 1,800 arrests have been made, over 1,000 have been charged, but it doesn't stop there, does it? So that's why we've got this database. You want more people to get in touch and give us that information that they need. And I can tell you, you can look at the portal by using the QR code below, just at the bottom of your screen now, you should see it there, or you can visit police.uk/disorder-appeal in order to do that. Graham, you're an officer from Northumbria. You're also hit by the riots pretty hard up there as well. As a senior officer, how do you even start with investigating something on this scale?
Morning, Rav. Yeah, we had a serious disorder incident, or a number of serious disorder incidents in Sunderland on Friday the 2nd of August. We had up to 1,000 people came into Sunderland city centre that day, and there were pockets of disorder throughout the city and out into the communities as well. And as a result of it happening in the city centre, we were very, very well covered by CCTV. And over the next 4 weeks, we went out and we gathered from over 100 premises over 10,000 hours of CCTV footage. And our challenge was to work out which of those 1,000 people had actually committed serious disorder offences. And we whittled it down, and we think there are 150 people who were committing serious disorder offences on that day. And the challenge was to try and find those that had their faces covered whilst they were committing those offences, to find them elsewhere in the footage where they had their faces uncovered.
It's a massive job, and as you say, it needs 10,000 hours of footage in order to do that. And you've had a number of arrests as well up there.
Yeah, we're approaching 100 arrests now for the disorder in Sunderland, and we think that we've probably got between 50 and 60 more to go, people who we need to identify and then to go out and arrest. Of those 150, we've charged a large number, and so far everyone has pleaded guilty before they've stood trial. And we've had a lot of sentences handed out, and we're just approaching 50 years total in total of sentences so far.
Some big sentences handed out, but the work isn't finished for you as well. There is a specific incident you want to speak to us about today, Graham. Tell us what's happening here.
Yeah, in one of the pockets of disorder in Sunderland city centre, we had this incident where a number of people are throwing items at the police. There's a man in the centre of the footage who's got a light-coloured covering over his head. He's wearing a vest top, and he's repeatedly throwing fire extinguishers at both the police officers and the police van. Through the investigation, we've been able to find images of him when he has his face uncovered, and I think those images are good enough that members of the public who know him might well recognise him well enough to give us a call, please, and tell us who he is so that we can speak to him about what happened that day.
Yeah, and we can see an image of that same person highlighted here. And interestingly, one of his arms seems to have a number of tattoos down there that could be a clue as to who he is if someone recognises him from this.
Yeah, as we see, he's got a beard and he's got a full sleeve tattoo there on his left arm. He's a well-built gentleman, and I'm fairly sure somebody will recognise him out there.
Hopefully. Well, Zoe, you're also got an outstanding case now that you want some people to help you with. This man, you believe, is involved. This is taken from CCTV. Talk us through what we're seeing here, Zoe.
Yes, thank you, Rav. On the 30th of July in Southport, the junction of St Luke's Road and Sussex Road, you can see the male in question that's ringed on the footage, picking up bricks and other missiles and throwing them towards the police officers and the police vans.
Just again, this level of violence that's used there, absolutely horrific. So this is the person there, and this is the image taken. It is a very clear image, but there's another incident as well that you really need some help with that you're going to talk us through now. This time we've moved up to Cleveland. Talk us through this one, Zoe.
Thank you, Rav. Yes, this happened on Linthorpe Road in Middlesbrough on Sunday, the 4th of August last year, where a single victim was set upon by a group of individuals, as you can see here. What I can tell you is that the victim, who is on the floor, had been kicked and punched and ended up underneath those barriers, which was a ditch full of water, and he was face down. And it was exceptionally surprising he didn't suffer very serious injuries.
I mean, thankfully, he's made a recovery, at least physically anyway. A horrific event there we can see. Now, we're going to play this again. We're going to slow it down. We're not going to show the full details because it is too graphic, but we're hoping that someone will recognise those, or at least anyone that's involved in this matter. And in fact, we've got a still image of the person that's actually pushed this person to the ground now. This has been taken there. It's a clear set of images there, isn't it? Hopefully someone will know who this person is, and there's 3 more here that's taken from that same incident, Zoe. You don't know who they are, you just need some names for them.
I need names and locations, and these images will be updated onto the database.
Onto the database, where we need to know who these people are. Thank you both for joining us. Have a look at that portal. Remember, you just use the QR code or website, which I'll remind you is police.uk/disorder-appeal. And of course, if you have any information to share, you can also call us. Our number, 08000 468 999.
Still to come this morning, the daughter of Shona Stevens will be talking to us about her mum and what it would mean to find her killer after 30 years.
When I saw her coffin at the age of 7 years old, that's when it hit me that she was gone.
But first, how some old-fashioned trickery helped a gang mag nearly £1 million worth of jewellery before they were arrested by the flying squad.
May 2023, and Andrea and her partner made an important trip to their bank in Essex. We have changed her name to protect her identity.
We took out £15,000 cash to pay for the builders. I had the money in my bag. Both my partner and myself walked back to the car. He was sitting in the passenger side. The bag that was strapped across me was now in between his feet on the floor. There was a gentleman that came to the front of the car, sitting on the bonnet. He was saying, "Oh, I'm waiting for my friend to come. My friend wants to park here." Just as I was just gently pulling out of the car park spot, all of a sudden I've heard a pop. He was trying to guide us to pull over, and he was shouting quite loudly, "You've got something in your tyre, you've got something in your tyre." In the sidewall of my tyre, there was a small metal rod. My partner, he's like, "Oh, all right, I'll get out and have a look."
While they were distracted, the cash was stolen from the footwell.
We knew exactly what had happened, and we just quickly turned around, and it just like they'd melted away, just dispersed, just gone.
Andrea didn't know it at the time, but she'd become one of the many victims of a meticulously organised group of thieves.
You know, you work hard for what you get in life, and for someone to just take that away from you, it was just devastating.
4 months later, and another high-value distraction theft was reported in Glasgow. This time, a jewellery trader was targeted as he was in the city centre for business meetings.
He was holding around £80,000 worth of stock.
Showing the hallmarks of a highly professional theft, the case was escalated to the Met Police's flying squad. The lead detective, who must remain anonymous for operational reasons, scrutinised CCTV footage to establish how the suspects had identified the victim and his haul of jewellery. The trader makes his way through the city to a jeweller's in Argyle Arcade for a meeting. Detectives can see from CCTV that he's followed by the suspects wearing hats to disguise their identities. One even changes into a burqa. The trader and associates make their way to a meeting on a nearby street. Their every move followed closely by the gang, who wait 2 hours for the trader to emerge and circle as he makes his way back to his car.
He had placed the jewellery in a boot, and as he was getting into his car, a male approached him and dropped a quantity of coins and notes on the floor. And whilst being distracted, members of this group then removed the suitcases from the back of the vehicle and made their getaway.
The CCTV clearly showed the trader had been deliberately targeted and gave detectives a vital lead.
The vehicles the suspects were using was a Vauxhall Mariva and a Vauxhall Astra.
Police ran checks on the number plates and found they had both been logged after some suspicious activity at a jewellery trade fair in Birmingham 1 week earlier.
Jewellery trade fairs aren't open to the public. It's usually by invite only. They are a showcase opportunity for jewellery traders to show some of the most expensive items. So they are areas of opportunity that thieves can be interested in.
During the event, the security team was placed on such high alert that their CCTV was passed on to DCI Laura Hillier and her team at the Met Flying Squad.
This vehicle is just parked, and these two people have just arrived at the trade fair event. This male then puts on a hat and he's putting in an earpiece, and he is making his way to the event. This male actually enters the event and goes to the table and grabs lanyards and tries to enter without being registered, and he's challenged by security and pretends that he doesn't speak English and leaves the venue with the lanyards. And then he makes his way back towards the car park, where he secretes a number of the lanyards that are required to get into the jewellery fair. The security are concerned and they start to make a sweep of the car park. He is aware that he's being followed and he quickly gets into the vehicle. The windows are blacked out, so you can't see into the back seat of the vehicle, and they're unable to find him. The security are on high alert at this stage. Their jewellery trade has been infiltrated, and they look back at the CCTV and they can see that the lanyards have been left under this vehicle. And this is the first incident of the day that raises the concerns.
CCTV shows the suspicious man driving off, but he's then replaced by another.
Approximately 30 minutes later, a male is acting suspiciously within the hotel. He is challenged by the same security team and he makes off.
Within the hour, a third person raises suspicions. This man, who parks up near the trade fair, is driving the silver Astra used in the theft from the jewellery trader in Glasgow.
A male exits and makes his way towards the hotel. And immediately the security team are on high alert. The male realises he's being watched by security. He's spooked, so he actually leaves the event. The security team come out to speak with him, but he doesn't look back. It's at this stage that the security team make the hard decision to close the event.
It seemed security may have thwarted a potential theft, but police were convinced the gang had got away with something more valuable.
The Glasgow victim had been at the trade fair event 8 days prior in Birmingham. So it was clear that their intentions at the trade fair were to scout for victims who they could later target.
Just 2 weeks later, another jewellery broker left London after attending a similar fair.
He parked his vehicle at a service station. He had left his jewellery valued around £100,000 within his vehicle, during which time his car was broken into and the jewellery was stolen.
The car the suspects used was recovered by police in Luton 6 days later.
We found that the victim's suitcases and bags were still in the vehicle, but the rings had been taken. Inside that bag, we had found a receipt from a store in Enfield.
Using the time and date on the receipt, police cross-checked this against CCTV from the area. This led them to a group of suspects.
It was clear when we was watching the CCTV and following this group that they were looking for potential victims within the town centre, and they were looking at sort of bank premises.
At this point, detectives realised this gang wasn't just targeting high-value jewellery, but people drawing out large amounts of cash, like Andrea and her partner.
We then started to look back at historic crimes which they may have committed, and was able to identify this group was in excess of 30 to 40 people. They had done a vast amount of offending of this type, and they had stolen hundreds of thousands of pounds. We knew that we had to arrest these subjects sooner rather than later.
And we'll see how the net closed in on that audacious gang a bit later. Before that, in 1994, 31-year-old mum Shona Stevens took a lunchtime walk, only to be brutally attacked just 200 metres from her door. For the first time, Shona's daughter has opened up about the horrific attack against her mum.
I was 7 years old when I lost my mum. She was my inspiration. Every moment I got to spend with her, I cherished. I only wish that I could have known her as an adult. I've tried to follow her ideals. You know, she was incredibly bright, academic, multi-talented, and just such a beautiful person. She had a natural grace about her because she took such diligent care in everything she did. I just hope she would be proud of her. She's here today.
So it's drafts, is it? I got bored of snakes and ladders.
Shona was my mum. She was an academic, she was studious. We used to watch films together, we drew, and I used to watch her studying. Yeah, she encapsulates everything that I do.
If I saw things from Richard's point of view,
When it came to bedtime, she would sit by my bedside and read me bedtime stories. And we practiced reading together.
Candace showed me the new book she brought.
Gran and my mum were incredibly close. They had a mother-daughter bond that was unbreakable. I just remember in the household, you know, we were always laughing, having jokes, you know, dancing up and down the hallway, and it was just such a loving household. I was happy. That was how it was. After losing my mum, my gran tried her utmost to raise me in as a normal environment as possible. I want people to see me, not for the tragedy that happened. I want to be known for my own merits, not just, you know, sympathy.
On Thursday, the 10th of November, 1994, Shona Stevens was murdered metres from her home in Irvine, North Ayrshire. The person responsible has never been found. D.I. Gillies took over the case in January 2024.
Shona Stevens was a 31-year-old mother who left her home about 12:30 in the afternoon to take a walk to the local shops in Alder Green in the Birchie Hill area of Irvine. A walk that she would take every single day. Birchie Hill Park was a thoroughfare. A lot of people from the local housing estates would use it as a footpath or a cycle pathway from one part of the town to the other, particularly towards the local shops. Irvine was a relatively new town. 30 years ago, it was an area that was undergoing some expansion with new housing estates and the like. The morning of the 10th of November 1994 was a morning like every other for Shona and her mother. They were home together and Shona had to take a walk to the shops.
I'm going to the shops. Do you want anything?
It was only a short distance. It was approximately about an 8 to 10 minute walk through the park. The route that Shona would have taken would have been to exit her garden through a back gate onto a footpath, which have ultimately taken her through the park in the direction of the Birchie Hill shops, coming out at Towerlands Farm Road. given the time of day, between 12 and 1 o'clock and shortly thereafter, that there would have been people that were out walking their dogs, socialising, taking their lunch breaks. She was in the shopping precinct just before 1 o'clock. She was seen re-entering the park just after 1 o'clock. She was attacked by an unknown person, during the course of which she sustained serious head injuries, understood to be caused by blunt force trauma to the head. She was discovered at 20 minutes past 1 by members of the public. She was visible from the pathway, which is what drew their attention towards her and ultimately summoning the police and first aid. Where Shona was discovered was only 200-300 yards from her home address. She was nearly home. I would have expected people in the immediate vicinity, whether in the park or the houses nearby, to have been aware that a disturbance had taken place. However, they may have not linked it to an attack on Shona at the time, but they may subsequently reflect on that.
Shona Stevens was airlifted to Southern General Hospital in Glasgow, where she was treated for severe head wounds. Despite doctors' best efforts, Shona Stevens never regained consciousness.
When she passed away, it was really quite a blur for me, because I was used to seeing her every day, and then all of a sudden I was taken aside and told, "Oh, your mum's in a hospital. She's not well." And I was like, "Oh, can I go see her?" And I was told no, probably best. So I used to make her handmade cards for the 3 days that she was in hospital, until the Sunday, on Remembrance Sunday in 1994, when they decided to turn her life support off. And when I saw her coffin at the age of 7 years old, that's when it hit me that she was gone.
Police still haven't established a motive for her murder.
The investigation would have focused on gaining an understanding of who uses that park, who frequents the local area, speaking to people in the local community who may or may not be involved in criminality, and building an investigative strategy around those criteria. There's been a number of people whose identity we've appealed to the public for, and that we've subsequently identified them as part of this investigation. There's always a possibility that there are further witnesses that haven't been identified or for whatever reason come forward. 30 years have passed, and I am confident that there are answers in the community. An attack of this type, particularly when we can't yet establish a motive, so whether it's 1994 or 2025, the manner of this incident is shocking, and it continues to be investigated as a priority.
There have been numerous appeals to the public over the years. In 1995, police sought Crimewatch's help.
The attack on Shona still has too many elements of mystery, and hence tonight this nationwide appeal.
30 years on, and Shona's killer has never been found.
Losing my mum has impacted every facet of my life. To anyone that's got any information about Shona's case, please, please, share whatever you know with the police. Any little bit of information, however insignificant you may think it may be, please share it. It's been 30 years. My mum deserves justice. My gran is 90 years old. She deserves justice. And so do I. Yeah.
It's truly heartbreaking. I'm joined now by DI Stuart Gillies, who you saw in the film there from Police Scotland's major investigation team to discuss further. Stuart, thanks so much for coming in this morning. Shona's daughter speaking in the film, that is the first time that she's felt able to bravely speak about her mum. She didn't want to be fully identified in the film, but you can really tell the impact that this has had on her and the rest of the family.
Absolutely. I commend her bravery. It's had a devastating impact on Shona's family and the local community, and that's why I'm here today, to try and get answers.
And you want to make absolutely clear that this is still very much an active murder case, isn't it?
Yes, this is an unresolved homicide, and I'm here today to appeal to the community for their help in drawing it to a conclusion. I've spoken to people in the community who are under the impression that it has been solved, and I'm here to say it hasn't. So if you have information, come forward and help us.
Shona's daughter spoke so beautifully about her mum in the film. You could tell that they were extremely close. What more can you tell us, Stuart, about Shona?
Well, that's exactly it. She was a loving mother and a daughter. She was very close with her family, and there's a small group of friends. A very private person with a small social group, but ultimately a beloved mother and daughter.
And can you remind us what she was actually wearing on the day that she was attacked?
Of course. She was wearing a navy blue woolen jumper and a ankle-length brown skirt with black shoes.
Now, we've got a map that we can show here, Stuart, just to kind of give a bit more of an indication into Shona's movements that day. Talk us through it.
So this is Shona's home address at Alder Green, and as I mentioned in the VT, she exits her garden from a back fence and onto a path which she would then take towards the local shops. This is a route that she would take every day, and it would be frequented by people out walking their dogs or on their bikes or whatever, and would be directly through Burtree Hill Park to the local shop area.
And what time was it that she was last seen?
She left the house approximately 12:30 in the afternoon to go to the shops.
And last seen when, around?
She was last seen re-entering the park here at Towerlands Farm Road at just after 1 o'clock.
And the attack happened, as you say, just yards from a home address. Absolutely shocking. Who specifically would you like to hear from today?
I want to hear from anybody who's got any information that's ultimately going to help us advance this investigation. And we're desperate for answers for Shona's family and the community.
As we said, this is something that happened 30 years ago. People may have actually come forward at the time. You would still urge them to come forward again, though, wouldn't you?
Of course. My team are in the process of re-engaging with witnesses from the time, but if you have come forward and spoke to the police at that time, we may be able to speak to you again, and we would urge you, if you've thought about anything subsequently or had other conversations, please come forward, please share what you know, and please help us.
And there is a Crime Stoppers reward in
Yes.
connection.
Our partners at Crime Stoppers are offering £20,000 for information leading to a conviction that comes via Crime Stoppers. So for anybody who's not yet prepared to come forward to the police directly, I would urge you to consider that route as an alternative.
Stuart, thanks again for coming in and joining us this morning. If you do have any information at all relating to this case, then please do get in touch with us. All the ways to contact us are on the screen below.
Now, in a moment, we're going to see how the flying squad hone in on their South American gang. But we're joined now by Sarah Stuff. She's a former flying squad DCI and current head of Safer Gems. Sarah, just explain what Safer Gems is and what you do.
So good morning, Rav, and thank you for the opportunity. So Safer Gems started in 2009, and it's a major crime initiative that relates to the jewellery industry, so pawnbrokers, arts and antiques. So it's hosted by the British Security Industry Association and was sponsored by National Association of Jewellers and TH Marsh Insurance Brokers. So we work really closely with all UK police forces through the National Police Chiefs Council. We receive information of reports, intelligence and data, and we'll share that through alerts to our membership group and bulletins to UK police forces.
So important.
It's so key, isn't it? So what kind of trends have you seen then, Sarah, with this kind of crime?
So if we look at this particular case, from the beginning of 2023, we saw an increase in high-value thefts against mobile reps and traders and also at jewellery events. So we've had about 40 instances reported to us, and we see that these gangs are very organised. They travel between the UK and the US. They use multiple vehicles as they're targeting their potential victims, and are very sophisticated in how they operate, as you would have seen in the reconstructions there.
Yeah.
But some of the tactics used are actually pretty basic, aren't they? Like the coins on the floor.
Absolutely. And it's that way of drawing somebody in and trying to help. So they might throw notes on the floor, distract you, put sauce on the back of your jacket and say, can I help you clean it off? Or by distracting you and then putting a spike underneath your vehicle to burst the tyre and then offering help. So it's reaching out to you in that way that distracts you, and then they steal from you.
It's so sneaky, isn't it, Sarah? What advice would you give to jewellery traders that could very easily become a victim to this kind of crime?
Absolutely. So some important advice, and that's in conjunction with the police, is that if you are a mobile trader, please always check your vehicle before you leave after an event or from your home address. Never post on social media where you're going. Try and have a companion with you. A second pair of eyes is always really helpful. We do suggest you get a safe inside the boot of your vehicle, so that's a really good way if you're away from the vehicle or whilst you're loading your items up. You can also buy a tracker, very affordable, that can go into an item or into your bag. And if sadly that is stolen, then the police have a very quick way of being able to track it before the criminals know the tracker is covertly deployed. So there's a lot out there.
That's so useful.
And we would sort of say, even if you suffer the minest of crime or a suspicious incident, please always report it to the police, because it's that bigger picture and them understanding what's
so
going on.
important.
Totally.
You, of course, know what you're talking about. You spent many years in the flying squad. You did all sorts when you were there. And in fact, just before we came on air, you told us that you don't always wear the typical attire for a detective. Tell me about wearing a ball gown.
No. So this was quite an unusual deployment. So it was at a jewellery event at a hotel in London, and I had a long ball gown on, posh handbag and a gun hidden under my dress. So not often, but...
Amazing.
You remind me of like a female James Bond.
She is.
A little one, but yes.
Yeah, you've done it all. Well, yeah, really good advice today. I think it's going to keep a lot of people.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Really appreciate you coming in. We're actually back with your colleagues at the Flying Squad now as they close in on their South American gang.
They had done a vast amount of offending across the whole of England and Scotland, and they had stolen hundreds of thousands of pounds.
A valuable lead came from one of the cars used by the gang to scout for targets at a Birmingham trade fair.
One of them vehicles had been stopped in the London area, and 2 males had been arrested from that vehicle for immigration matters.
Police seized their phones and examined their contacts.
I was then able to identify at least 7 other individuals whose numbers had been at the Birmingham event on the 10th of September. We weren't able to identify owners or users of 6 of those numbers, but we were able to identify 1 number belonging to a male named Hugo Salgado.
Salgado had previously given his details to police in Kent when he was questioned about an attempted bank follow-off theft.
This was a bit of a breakthrough and a bit of a goldmine. Was able to then look at crimes he had previously committed, and it also gave us an opportunity to look at him proactively and to work out who we may be now working with.
Putting a name to the face confirmed Salgado was one of the group responsible for the distraction theft of £15,000 from the car park in Essex. A surveillance operation was mounted to track Salgado's movements and the way the gang was operating.
They would meet with other members of the group on a daily basis. They would then disperse and make their way to town centres, city centres, across London and across the UK. They would be coming up in separate vehicles and not necessarily moving together as one. From there, they would then operate and commit their crimes. And we had to be aware that they could be watching us, so we had to adapt our surveillance to not get caught, basically. Salgado looked to be in charge of this group. This group was mainly South American, predominantly from Colombia. They was coming into the UK using a number of alias details. They would have several identities. This group was very difficult to deal with. We didn't know where they were living. We didn't know their true identities. Everything they did was off radar. It was one of the most challenging surveillance deployments we've done. The number of crimes started to become quite large across the whole of England and Scotland. This was a mammoth task in ourselves to sort of piece together and build a conspiracy case against this group.
In March 2024, a surveillance team was watching Hugo Salgado and other members of the gang when they went to Hatton Garden in London. the centre of the UK's diamond trade.
A trader was seen to leave one of the premises and he approached a taxi. He put his suitcases in the back and then we watched the group throw money on the floor around the taxi. This was an attempt by the group to then try and steal the trader's suitcases. This attempt was only foiled by a taxi driver who saw one of the male suspects try and get into the back of the taxi, and he challenged him as he approached the door. The trader then realised what was happening, got into his taxi and left the scene. Had this theft been successful, they would have got away with £4 million worth of jewellery.
By trawling hundreds of hours of CCTV footage, conducting a vast amount of digital forensic work and running a 24-hour-a-day surveillance operation around the UK, police finally had enough evidence to make their move.
So on the 1st of May, we started our arrest phase and we arrested Hugo Salgado, Alberto Sanchez, Nayeli Castellanos and Jose Gerardo Barrero. And then within the weeks after, we arrested Miguel Ramirez, Jamie Gutierrez, Carlos Salazar and Jose Talanek.
You're under arrest, okay, for conspiracy to steal.
All 8 were charged with participating in an organised crime group and for conspiracy to steal. In total, they will serve over 32 years behind bars.
They had stolen in excess of £1 million worth of cash and jewellery and had made 2 attempts to steal £5 million worth of jewellery. The arrests and convictions of these individuals has made a significant impact and disruption to their organised crime group. They're no longer now able to operate on a daily basis committing crimes, which will mean a lot less victims on the streets.
Brilliant police work there. Now it's time for today's Wanted Faces. And the first of this series belongs to this man. This is Nikolai Konstantin. Surrey police want to speak to him about a sexual assault. The 25-year-old is originally from Romania and he's described as having dark receding hair and a distinctive tribal tattoo on his lower right arm. Police say he does have links to Hillingdon and Ruislip in West London, as well as to Slough in Berkshire and Bucharest in Romania. Well, have a look at this guy. This is 25-year-old Kieran Harrison. Police in South Yorkshire want to speak to him about a number of serious offences. They say he has links to Barnsley in South Yorkshire as well as to Northampton, but that recent intelligence suggests he may have travelled to Portugal. Or maybe you've seen this man. Now, he uses his first and last name interchangeably as either Alam Noor or Noor Alam. Northamptonshire police want to speak with him in connection to a serious offence. He has links to Whitechapel and Tower Hamlets in London and previously to Swansea and Cardiff in Wales. The 40-year-old has noticeable pockmarks on both sides of his cheeks. And last for today anyway is Hamid Hemati. Police in Manchester want to question him about the production of methamphetamines. He's 39 and has links to Manchester and London, but also to Iran. So if you have seen any of these men out and about or you know where they might be, please do get in touch. All the ways to contact us are on the screen below. Thank you for watching today, and remember you can catch us on iPlayer for up to 30 days after broadcast.
Details of organisations that can provide support with some of the issues raised are available at bbc.co.uk/actionline.
Tomorrow, detectives finally apprehend a prolific thief that we've featured many times on the programme.
We've got a suspect who we know is wanted for several offences over several years. He seems one step ahead. Right now we need to get hold of him.
Yeah, this guy is quite something, isn't he? You won't want to miss that.
Yeah, we're going to see you tomorrow for that and more. Same time, 10:45. Bye for now.